Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I am your humble host, Demetrius, and I am so happy to have this opportunity to come back to you once again with another great episode. Now, listen, you all know that I have the same goal and the same mission as always, and that is hopefully by the end of this particular podcast, you will be one step closer if you don't already love being a father. My goal is to help you love being a father. And if you already love being a father, to help you continue love being a father or love being a father even more and more every single day. That's what I want you to do. Love being a father the way I love being a father. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're in this space. We have a tough job, but as I always say, one of my favorite t-shirts tells me it is the toughest job you will ever love. And that is what we want to do. We want to do our job with love. I am excited to have you here again. I have another great guest that is going to be sharing with us today, and I'm excited for you to have the opportunity to meet him. But first, you already know what I need you to do. I need you to go. I need you to like. I need you to share. I need you to subscribe. As a matter of fact, while you're watching this podcast right now, you should just encourage somebody. Hey, Facts and Fatherhood is on. Send a link to them and ask them to jump on and watch the podcast. And then do me a favor, ask them to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I'm having fun and I hope you're having fun. You know, you can actually do it. You can actually go to my website right there with that little QR code. It'll take you right to the website, which is right down here, the facts, www.factsandfathers.com. A lot of great things over there for you to see. I'm hoping you're going to take the time and go over to the shop because we got some things over there that I think you're going to like. It's June, right? So it's Father's Day, and I am so happy that we created this particular set of merchandise that really features one of my dad's very favorite famous sayings that he used to make. And it was, don't let the devil fool you. So we have boy, we have girl, we have bro, we have hey, whichever one suits you. Don't let the devil fool you. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts, we have caps, all the things, of course. All right. And we even have, this nice little hat that you see me sporting here for the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. This trucker hat seems to be pretty popular. So go over there and get your hands on it. Okay. And then I'm so excited. At some point in time, you are going to get the opportunity to put your hands on this tool. That release date is coming very, very soon. So stay tuned. Keep watching. You're going to be so glad that you had an opportunity to get that book. And then I want you to couple it with the Fatherhood Target Practice Journal. This is for you to record, for you to journal, for you to remember the journey of development, or maybe just some memories that you want to have as during your growth process of fatherhood. It's a very good tool for you to have. Journaling is something that I find to be very good, very helpful, beneficial as I'm kind of tracking my progress with a lot of things. So go over there. There's a lot of stuff over there for you to see, for you to be able to get your hands on. And so I just want you to go over to that shop. Now, today, I have the distinct pleasure of having a guest that is all the way from the land down under. He is from Australia. Can you believe it? And so I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to give the warmest welcome to my guest in the person of Mr. Mitesh Khatri. I am so happy to have him joining us in the studio, and he's going to be joining us here in the studio in just a moment. There he is right there, everybody. Welcome, my friend, Mr. Mitesh Khatri. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm really well, Demetrius. We spoke earlier in the week. I was in Sydney. I'm back in Melbourne, home in my study. So, pleasure to talk to you today.
Superb. I'm so glad to have you on to be a part of the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I understand. Is it a little bit different now? We've had storms and rain and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of wind and stuff that's stirring up over here in Texas, here in the United States.
Yes.
What about over there where you?
Yeah, look, it's very similar in the sense that the weather is very unpredictable, and we've probably gone into this. I'm sure there's some science and theory behind it, but it feels like it should be winter. We're moving into winter, but we still got elements of autumn. We have summer some days, but it's getting very cold here. When I say cold, it's probably not still as cold as the US. So mornings are 4 or 5 Celsius degrees. I know you probably work in Fahrenheit, so I'm not sure what that converts to. But the days are around 15 degrees or so here.
Wow. Yeah. And we, funny thing, you guys are entering into winter, and we are entering, or well, I should say entering, we are actually in summer. Where I am in the United States, it is super hot. Here it gets here right here in the summer, and the beginning of hurricane season. So that's not fun, and that's not exciting. But nevertheless, we hope to not have to evacuate, because that is not fun at all, right? So, but I'm so glad to have you. Yeah, what you got?
No, I was just going to say, well, is this normally a time that you would normally go away for holidays? Do you have like school holidays coming up? Do people get away around this time because of summer?
Yes, this is the end, for the most part, the end of the school year. For some, it's going to be kind of like toward the end of this month or middle of this month. But for the most part here, it is the end of the school year. So yeah, people are doing the traveling and all the things and preparing for the 4th of July. And of course, it's the 250th anniversary of the United States. It's coming up on July 4th. So that's a big thing. So there's a lot of activity that's happening. So everybody's getting ready and prepared and geared up for a summertime has come. It has arrived. And so
that's great.
Yeah, it's hot where I am down south. It gets a lot hotter. Sometimes I feel like we're probably sitting on the equator as hot as it gets here. But anyway, nevertheless, the cooler temperatures will come. And so I just wait for the cooler temperatures to come and enjoy
we have to appreciate the seasons. We're probably lucky we get the seasons. Some parts of the world don't get to see the 4 seasons. So we sort of have to appreciate each one. And that's actually, I was thinking about this the other day. Seasons are almost like fatherhoods to some degree. I think, sometimes you're in warm seasons. Sometimes it's a little bit windy. Sometimes a little bit cold. And sometimes you feel like new things are blossoming. So I think seasons are a good metaphor for different times of fatherhood.
This is very true. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things that I write about in my book. I write about the fact that parenthood, but in particular, specifically focused on fatherhood, it does have seasons. Like, I cannot treat my 23-year-old twins the way I treated my 3-month-old or 5-year-old twins. And so we're in a different season. I'm in a different season of, I'm still, just as much as father as I was when they first got here. But what father looks like at 23 looks a lot different than it did when we were little bitty adolescents and all the different things. It's a lot different. And I'm truly enjoying this season of fatherhood. I really, really, truly am. And so as we lean into those seasons, I've learned, and I like to use this terminology, whatever season I am in, I have the grace for that season. So I'm really grateful for the grace that I have of this season of being father in this season, which also is inclusive of the fact that we are also grandparents. My youngest son actually has a son. Yeah, and so he just is a little bit over a year old now, and so we're enjoying that grandparent era. So, of course, we told them they can give us as many of those as they want. Just understand, you're not having any more brothers and sisters. That part is done. Okay, that's over.
Right. Yeah, you can almost go back and do the things maybe you wished you did, and back with your grandkids, right? So you're sort of
Hello.
replaying fatherhood again.
Hello. It's the fun part, right? I told my son, I said, I need you to understand. I said, I'm telling you right now, it's your job to say no to him, not mine. So
Mm.
I'm not gonna say no. Joking with it,
That's
but yeah,
fantastic. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. But I'm so glad to have you here today. I understand that you have the blessing of being the father to two wonderful children. You have a son and a daughter, and I
Yeah.
know we're going to hear a little bit more about them very, very soon. But one of the reasons why you are sharing with us today is because you are doing some really, really good work in the area and really sharing some really, really great things in the area of fatherhood. And of course, I understand that there is a book that is on the horizon. Can you tell us a little bit more about the book? We'll talk a little bit more, of course, at the end, a little bit later. But just tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah. Look, I have gone through, I think many fathers go through periods of sort of self-discovery, right? Kids, they absolutely change your life. And we were talking about this area early in the week. When you hold your son or daughter for the first time in your hands, that feeling you have, if you just close your eyes and then have a think about that, there's probably not a lot of feelings that are going to come close to that. Maybe the day you got married, if you're married. Maybe there's one or two other things. Your favorite sports team won the grand final. You might be right up there. I'm not sure. But when you hold your child, you, as much as you do the research and as much as you people tell you should do this and you should do that. There's many books out there and there's many YouTube videos and lots of things of content. You're on your own, when you take that baby home. And I think as they then grow up, you start to really learn new things about yourself as well, right? So like yourself, and I was listening to you at the start, I do a lot of journaling and I've been sort of on and off the last couple of years. And I looked at my journals for the last 5 years, and I joined some men's groups when we first had the kids because I just felt overwhelmed. Taj, who was my older boy, he's 7.5 now. Alia's just turned 6 in April. And I wrote a book because I felt like I almost missed my children's childhood, right? So I almost missed it. And not in a dramatic way, but in a way, so I wasn't working anywhere else. I wasn't overseas and traveling. But every morning, every evening, every weekend, I was there in the room, but I wasn't there with them and I wasn't present. And there's a real difference, right? So for years, I was moving through fatherhood, especially in those early years. I felt like a man underwater, so work was very stressful. I was performing the role of fatherhood, so checking boxes, bath time, bedtime, school drop off. But my mind was completely somewhere else. It was on work. It was the stress of bills. It was like I need to do various things around life admin. I had my phone in my hands, and it was my son that finally said something out loud to me, which really broke me open, which made me realize I need to do something about this. I was in the kitchen, between the kitchen table and the dining table. He was playing some Lego, right? And I was there on my phone. And I was just scrolling Instagram, the usual blur posts, not really. Well, I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, and that was part of the problem, right? I was looking at my phone, and he looked up at me and he said, "You're always on your phone, Dad." And I defensively and almost instinctively said to him, "I'm not." And clearly I was lying to him because I was on my phone. And then I recognized something triggered in me that said, actually, I am on my phone. And then I said, I remember saying to him, "I just need to do this one thing." And I had nothing important to do. So I was trying to sort of justify my behavior. And I just remember a few moments later, I put the phone down. I had this heavy weight on my chest. I even speaking about it right now, I feel it. The guilt, the shame, a little, tremble in my hands that, my son had seen me more clearly than I'd seen myself. right? I was there in the room with him, but my mind was completely somewhere else, and I was not engaged with what he was doing. And he said it out loud, and I thought to myself, well, how many times has he seen this and not said anything? Where I've been there in the room, but actually not been connected and present with him. And I think all the, science, and you can read so much that sort of says, let's just be present, be present. Well, it sounds so easy, but actually it's very hard to do. You can't just think your mind to be present in the room. There are various neurological things you need to do around your nervous system to actually reset that to be in a state where you can actually show up. So I started a bit of a journey around discovery around that. And what I found was that very quickly, even today, it's not just me. Dads, whether they're in Australia, whether in the US, whether in the UK, modern fatherhood is harder than anyone really admits, right? I mean, the expectations have really changed. When I think about my father, he was the sort of breadwinner, he was the provider. We're meant to be that plus emotionally available for our kids, and we want to be, right? Most of us are running on empty most of the time and wondering why we can't be the fathers we want to be. So I wrote a book to really shift, really for myself, and you know how these things go. You write something for yourself and you end up helping other people along the way. And I wanted to not be the dad that was in flight or fight or fight mode, because you can't really run away from your kids. I mean, you do have that choice, but we don't. We can either fight with them or we can really father. And that's the title of the book, Fight the Father, using calm, which is a framework, using calm to stop reacting and start connecting. So yeah, happy to talk more around it, but it was a bit of a journey of discovery, and not just my story, but other dads in my network sharing their stories, putting the science and validity behind why we feel so trapped to be great fathers, but also great in our careers, great in our relationships. So it's a book about that.
Yeah, that all of that is so important to really, really understand. Like, and then, I love how, you leaned into taking that moment in, as an opportunity for growth. One of the things that I've found very, important in my development as a father, and I share this with fathers quite often, is that, the better I develop myself as a man, as a person. And I'll tell you, I had an incident that happened. I'm the oldest of four, right? That's me. There's two sisters in between, and there's my baby brother. Well, in 2006, one of my sisters, the one that was born right after me, she passed away, right?
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, 2014, my baby sister passed away, right? So, that dynamic. But what happened, I learned something about myself at the first one in 2006. So I had, a lot of responsibility being the oldest, and trying to be strong for my family, my children, all the things, right? And trying to really work through all of these things. And what happened was I went for a number of months and never really did deal with the grief of losing my sister, because I was so focused on my role of responsibility, right? And I went for a period of months, and it wasn't until I ended up going away to this men's conference that was going on. I went to the men's conference, and I remember getting to the men's conference, and it was church men's conference. I get there, they're doing praise and worship, right? I get in, I put my stuff down, and I kind of, begin to engage in the worship service. While I'm engaging in the worship service, I literally become just flooded with tears. I just wept and wept and wept and wept and wept. And the funny thing was, this conference was 3 days long, and I was there for the 3 days, and I wept all 3 days. I just could not stop weeping, right? So what I realized in that, afterwards, hindsight is, kind of 2020 in some instances. I'm looking back, and as I'm evaluating, what all was going on, what all was happening, and took that time to evaluate, I could identify what was going on with me. That was where I identified, hey, I never really did give myself the permission, the okay to really grieve until I got in a space where there was no wife, where there were no children, where there was no mom, where there was no other siblings to be strong for, you know, and getting in that space allowed me the freedom to be able to come to, I guess, a realization that, hey, I really have been holding on and harboring this grief, not realizing that although I'm holding on to and harboring this grief and thinking, well, actually not even knowing that I was harboring the grief, you know, because I learned a lesson about how to deal with grief in that time properly, but not realizing that that was showing up in so many different aspects of my relationship with my family, all of that particular point in time. And so my wife talks about like how different I was, like when I came back and all the different things, and, you know, how, you know, things kind of started kind of changing a little bit, but it was because I had not dealt with what was truly going on within me. I hadn't dealt with that. Right. And so I realized how important it was through that experience to really hone in and actually be able to understand, evaluate, and understand what was really going on with me, deal with that underlying cause and that reason of what was going on with me so that I could be, you know, all that I needed to be for my children, for my wife, you know, and all the things. And I learned the value of unplugging for myself and realizing that that was not me being selfish. If anything, that was actually an act of love and an act of care and an act of kindness on the behalf of my children and my wife and so on and so forth, because I recognized I needed to deal with what was going on. And oftentimes, you know, I know that it's a thing, you know, being a pastor and counseling with other men and all this kind of different things like that. I do recognize that one of the main emotions that men often are geared toward expressing is anger. And a lot of times you go straight to that, you know, and really I've learned that anger is a defense mechanism, truly. Related a lot of times to something that is a deep-seated or deep-rooted fear. But that we go to that, you know, that there's the propensity to go to that space. So can you talk to us about, you know, the reality of why, you know, sometimes skip that. We can really skip to go straight to that. You know, I'm talking about from 0 to 200, you know, in like 2 seconds flat, right? We skip to that instead of really dealing with what's going on with us.
Firstly, I just want to acknowledge your tragic circumstances. I really admired, you know, your courage to show your emotions in that setting, you know, and sometimes, you know, I think it speaks to probably universal truth really around that men are shown to perform. They're sort of expected to perform and not show weakness, right? Not show vulnerability. And still in society, you know, that, you know, it's changing, but that sort of norm still exists. Like you push through, you stay strong, you know, you fall over, get hurt, you don't cry, you push through, right? And a lot of us have not seen our fathers be emotional or be in tears. And I think, you know, we are learning and modeling off our role models, right? Whether it's our fathers from when we were young, whether it's from men when we were growing up. And I'll come to the anger bit in a minute, because I think I wrote a whole chapter around anger in my book. So I think around this performance element, we keep everything surface level. Right? Men don't go deep. We know this. Men suffer in silence. We don't talk as much. We know that the majority of suicides are men. You know, it's really tragic. The difference is between, I think, men and women is women have perhaps naturally and instinctively they talk around their issues and emotions a lot more. Maybe sometimes more than, you know, many partners want to hear. But it's critical, right, to get those emotions out. I always find that, you know, if I've got a lot going on in my head, I write that down on paper, And one of my mentors told me in the past that, this saying has always stuck with me is fear has no place on paper. Once you can take that out of your head and put it down, you've now allocated it somewhere. But often we don't do that. It's whether it's journaling, right? So journaling's great. The key sort of habit with journaling is it's taking all those thoughts from your head and putting it out on paper, right? Just not sort of ruminating in your head at 2 a.m. and you're waking up sort of thinking and trying to solve different things which you can't do anything about. You've actually given it a place to go. So I think, the value of journaling, amongst other things, helps. But, coming back to this performance bit, I just think about even today or this week, I do school drop off after the weekend, and I ask another dad, how's your weekend, right? And it's something we all ask at school. And it's almost the identical response I get from every dad. Yeah, good, busy, kids at sport, birthday party on Sunday, you know how it is. And there's a quick pivot then. How about you? Big weekend? And just like that, the conversation moves on and no one has anything real to say, right? So what we don't say is, well, Saturday morning started with a tantrum before breakfast. I lost my patience at 9 a.m. My wife and I barely spoke except to coordinate logistics. The birthday party was really loud and exhausting, and I was on my phone pretending to check something important, which I wasn't. Sunday was supposed to be a rest day, but it felt like another shift to survive. By Sunday night, I was more tired than Friday. And that's the real weekend, but things are good is what comes out, right? And I spent years sort of going, why is it so hard for dads to just speak the honest truth? I'd be at weekend sport with my son, coffee in hand, watching him play soccer. And I look at the other dads and go, they seem to like they've got it together, right? It's just me that's struggling. But it's not just me that's struggling. We're all struggling. And we're all sort of suffering in this silence. And what that leads to is sort of parental burnout. And, you talk about quite a real tragic, unfortunate situation where you've bottled up this, tragedy and not expressed that. And it comes out in ways that you don't, really expect. And at times you don't really expect. So what do we do as men? I think we move too quickly into burnout mode. Holding all this emotional weight, and we don't really seek help. We withdraw into our works, into our phones, into Netflix, into eating, into alcohol or other drugs, and I think it was a conversation I had with one mate of mine one night where I it was after one or two drinks. So be it, but he sort of said to me, he told me everything was falling apart. Work was relentless. His wife was exhausted. His kids were acting out. He felt like he was failing everywhere and trying hard, but failing everywhere. And, I could have said, well, I could have said anything in those moments, but I just said something back to him. I said, same here. And we talked for 2 hours and we talked real stuff. And I remember thinking, why did it take so long to have a conversation like this? And I think that, amongst other things, obviously my son telling me on my phone, I decided to do something about it. I want men to stop suffering in silence and actually see vulnerability as strength, to use techniques like journaling, to talk to their mates, join a men's group, go do something active and physical for your body where you can do it with a group of men, whether it's playing soccer or going for a run or cycling or anything, right? I think that where we may have done some of that sort of engagement with men in the past, like the pub or the bar, that's sort of fading away over time. It's sort of less socially acceptable. We still do it, but not to the same degree. And we're also busy, but we're not making time to let those emotions out and connect with other men. So I think my sort of big message is, how do we not suffer in silence? Recognize that we're all going through the same thing. We're just internalizing it, right? Rather than talking to others about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I'll let you go, and then we can talk about anger a bit as well.
Yeah, I love it because and one of the things I often, again, when we talk about, anger, um, how it really is a defense mechanism. There's something else in there that is making me build this wall or put up
Yep.
this, defense. And one of the things that I talk about when I talk about emotions, right? And I like to talk about this when I'm doing one of my, some of my fatherhood workshops.
Mm.
Emotions were given to us as a gift. And I say that because, unfortunately, a lot of us are dealing with damaged emotions. So we're not
Mm.
really able to utilize that tool the way we should. But I often say that emotions are indicators. They shouldn't be navigators, but they should be indicators.
Yeah.
And the example that I utilize, of course, we're men. So, for the most part, most of us are going to understand the analogy of the warning lights that come on the dashboard in the car.
Yeah.
I need those sensors. I need all the things that work up under that hood to make sure if something is going wrong, that
Mm.
indicator light comes on.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
I can continue just to drive the car, drive the car, drive the car. If the indicator light never comes on and the sensor is
Yeah.
malfunctioning and it never comes on, what is happening is I am I am literally driving myself into a place where I'm going to really like create way more damage. And it probably could have
Mm.
started off as something really simple, like a simple fix, right? But
That's right.
if that indicator light never comes on and I'm never aware of what's going on under that hood, I will be causing considerable damage. And in some cases, engine failure could be, because I was not able to address what was going on. Or if the light comes on and I have the habit of ignoring the light. I mean, you can only ignore your
Mm.
fuel light coming on
Mm.
for so long before
Mm.
you are
Mm.
literally going to be sitting on the
Mm.
side of the road looking for somebody to push or walking with a gasoline can to the
Mm.
to the nearest gas station to be able to refill. So it's a good thing that those lights come on the dashboard because they
Yep.
are indicating to me, okay, there's something going on. And then what I need to do is be as smart as the car manufacturers, right? The car manufacturers have a manual, they have an owner's manual, they have a maintenance, guide and all the things. And what you find is you find in that maintenance guide or in the owner's manual, you will find a little page in there that has these different symbols and these different signs that tell you what your instrument cluster
Mm-hmm.
that indicate all those different lights. What is this indicating? What does this mean? This
Right.
light means this little symbol means that. And then it gives you the instructions about what you need to do whenever you see that light come on. And our
Yep.
emotions are like that, right? So
Yep.
our emotions really are those indicators that let us know, hey, something is going on, something is happening. And so I need to really be able to build out a framework and be proactive and say, hey, it's going to happen. At some point in time, if you drive the car, some of the lights are going to come on. Our air
Yep.
pressure, something's going to come on, right? So when the
Mm.
light comes on, I need to have a action plan or game plan as to what I'm going to do whenever that light comes on. But I don't need to suppress the light. See, so emotions were not made to be suppressed; they were made to be expressed, right?
That's
And
right.
here's the other thing that sometimes I don't think we really look at. Um, we're men, right? But we're humans and we're people. So it
Mm.
means that we feel the exact same emotions that our spouses do. Although we're men, we hurt. If you cut us, we're going to bleed. All the things, right?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
we've learned to not properly manage those things when they show up, and not properly deal with
Absolutely.
them when they show up. So I think that's so important, so crucial, and so important what you're sharing there because those emotions really are a gift to us, and I think we really should learn how to navigate that space better.
Yeah, look, and the science sort of backs up everything you're saying, right? So when you think about whatever that emotion is with you and your kids, or you and your partner, or any relationship, let's have a think about that, right? So we co-regulate, we mirror those emotions, right? We feel those emotions. And when you are stressed day in, day out, and you're going through, say, battles with relationships, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's your kids, they're not listening for the 10th time, that gets stuck in the body. It's going to turn up in different ways. And then you talk about those indicators in the car, right? It could be a tight jaw. It could be weight on your chest. It could be a back pain that hasn't gone away. It could just be you feel sluggish. It could be you're short of breath. There's a whole range of things we need to sort of sense in our body, and work out, because it's going to show up in different ways, right? Maybe it's a headache. It's going to tell you the state of your mind, your emotions. And I think when we're stressed and really stressed, that chronic kind that builds over weeks and months, your nervous system shuts down, and it goes into overdrive, right? The body thinks there's a threat. So we know hunter-gatherer times, what will happen? There was a threat, right? When that threat happens, our body pumps out cortisol. It keeps ourselves alert, reactive, and on edge. But when the lion goes away and we run away or we fight, we go away, the cortisol comes back down, right? So resets our nervous system. But there's no lion now. There's emails, there's deadlines, there's arguments we might have with our loved ones. There's school pickups, there's bills, there's children asking for attention, and you've got nothing left to give, right? And I think it was neuroscientist Stephen Porges came out with polyvagal theory, right? He talks about there's 3 states. There's safe and secure, right? This is when a threat comes, we deal with that threat, and our cortisol rises, we deal with it, we bring it back down. We're still in safe and secure. The next stage is survival mode. Cortisol rises, but it hasn't cleared. This is most of us every day. We're in survival mode. We're not clearing that stress in our body, right? And we get stuck in survival mode. And what does that mean? Cortisol's in your bloodstream's draining that blood from your prefrontal cortex. That's the part that thinks, plans, stays calm, rushes to your muscles. You're ready to fight or flee. And that was happening to me. And therefore, you sort of wonder, why can't I think properly in these situations, these intense situations with my partner or my kids, or whatever it is? It's not a mindset problem, it's a body problem. The blood's gone away. And the last stage is really survival mode. Now, I was probably in survival mode every day or every other day. This is when you completely shut down. This is when you are there in the room, but you're not there. You are thinking about something else. You're actually not even engaging maybe with your kids anymore. You're really just passive, very passive in the room. So I think, we're coming back to sort of seeing those indicators in our body, and sort of touching on anger a little bit. Now, I think anger is an interesting emotion. I've wrote a whole chapter on this, and I did quite a bit of research. It was funny, this chapter didn't exist in my book until the 11th hour. I had a conversation with my father, actually, and it made me write this chapter, and really explore anger in more detail. So anger's interesting because anger is an emotion that we feel, right? Something happens and we get stressed out. We skip the real emotion. That's what happens. Stimulus, we go straight to anger. We bypass the emotion that's underneath that, right? So we've learned to shut down emotions underneath. And this is where journaling really helps. This is where pausing, breathing, having a think about what you're really feeling, right, can really help men unlock what's underneath that anger, right? So if we're hurt, that can become anger. If we're fearful, that can become anger. If we're disappointed, that can become anger. If we're sad, that will go straight to anger. So by adulthood, that conversion from the raw emotion of what it is to anger, it's so automatic. We just straight away raise our voice, right? And we get angry. So it's a lot of deep work to sort of unpack what's the emotion really underneath. Because, when my son doesn't listen to me and I've told him 4, 5, 6, 7 times to put the shoes on, right? I get angry, I get frustrated, I raise my voice. But maybe really underneath that, if I take a pause, is I'm hurt. I'm talking because I'm thinking I'm talking to you and you're acting like I don't even matter or exist right here, right? Maybe it's fear. We're going to be late for school and I'm going to look like I can't manage my own family, right? It's my turn to do drop off this morning. Maybe it's disappointment. I wanted this morning to go a particular way and smoothly, and it's falling apart again. Maybe it's sadness. I only have an hour with you right now before I have a full day at work, and you don't even want to be with me right now. So you look at the emotion underneath anger and start labeling that. What do your children do? They model that and they do the same thing. So when they have a fight with their sibling or with you, they don't raise their voice and get angry. They actually recognize those emotions that are going on. Is it sadness? Is it hurt? Is it disappointment? Maybe it won't happen straight away, but as you do that more and more, they're going to model that behavior, right? And they're going to be able to sort of understand, actually, this is not real anger. There's something else that's really disturbing me underneath. So I think those real emotions, so critical for us as dads to unlock, and don't just skip straight to anger, because anger feels powerful, feels like action. It doesn't make us vulnerable. And our children learn, let's just do that, right? Let's just get angry as well. And when feelings get big in my body, and my little body, what I need to do is get loud. I need to get angry. They're learning the same thing that they're seeing in the room. Whether it's from you, whether it's from your partner, they're watching everything. So I think, we need to say things like, I'm not angry. I'm just really disappointed. I really wanted us to have a good morning, and it's not going the way I thought. And it's funny, right? You get in the car with them, you're dropping them to school or whatever it is. Whenever you have these moments with them, maybe it's in the shopping center and they want to buy a toy or a lolly and you're having a public meltdown, right? They get over it pretty quickly. Those sort of things. They get over it once you're out of that city, and you're still holding on to it, and it's ruined your day. So I think, that requires a lot of vulnerability. It requires a lot of deep work and journaling to really work out what's underneath there, and how do I bring out the real emotion and teach my children to do the same thing, so they can have vulnerability and not just go straight to anger, because we skip the emotion that's really underneath.
Yeah, that is really, really good, because a lot of times that's what I'm talking about. You need to really have, it's because these things are going to happen, right? Conflict is going to happen. The misses between communication, all the things are going to happen. So it's a good thing to learn to practice to clearly identify what's really going on. Like, I'm not really just mad. I'm not really just angry. Like, I really am disappointed, or I really am sad.
Absolutely.
Like, clearly, what it is, and really speaking to, the reality of what it is, and that way we can actually deal with what's actually there. Because a lot of times, going straight to that anger, all we do is really just make that 10 times worse than it has to be, and, when it really could have been a little bit more simple, the conflict really could have been resolved a little bit easier, if we really could have those honest moments of talking about, like, what our disappointment is. Because a lot of times you'll start to find out, because, listening to you actually reach a point of connection, right? Where you like, hey, instead of this person is just like in a my favorite Marvel character, a Hulk, Incredible Hulk version,
of course.
in the face.
That's it.
And I'm understanding better, right?
And I think of my son, right? And I think, like, he's like the Hulk, because you're trying to teach the Hulk that men can be sad, they can be disappointed. It doesn't have to be destruction all the time, and you get into fight mode and get angry, right? You can feel hurt without hurting others. That's possible to do. And if it's your daughter, then you're teaching her, what emotional availability looks like in a man, right? She's learning what to expect from men, right? If she's in a relationship with a man, she learns that she deserves someone that can label what's underneath, right? Rather than making her guess what he's feeling. So you're breaking that chain, and really understanding that emotion underneath. And I remember, I don't get it right all the time, and by no means perfect, but I just remember one night where I did do this for a while, for a couple of weeks. And then one night I had a issue with Taj, my son. And I said to him, I just paused and said to him, waited 5 seconds. And I said, Taj, I'm not angry. I'm just really tired. I've had a hard day and I don't have much patience left. I don't have much left to give anymore. Can we start again? And he looked at me, like he really looked at me, and he just nodded and said, okay, Dad. And
Wow.
That was it. There was no explosion, no repair needed, no damage to undo. It was just honesty and vulnerability. And in that moment, I chose to connect with him and fight with him. And it doesn't happen all the time like that. But if you can start to change, you can start to change that ratio of how that's turning up, those moments, those really heated moments, labeling the emotion, and showing them what vulnerability looks like. I think you start turning, those scales towards the right side.
Yeah, because that's the beauty of it. As fathers, we're always teaching, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, not even when we're not teaching, right? They are watching everything. Yes. They absorb everything. They feel like when you are stressed coming from work, or if you're in hybrid, you leave your study or spare bedroom and go into the kitchen. If you have not decompressed for the day and transitioned from work mode to home mode, being a dad, they're going to feel that straight away. Yeah. They're more likely to act up. They're more likely to bring up issues. They're more likely to disengage. They're more likely to fight with their siblings because they feel the stress from your body. They have this thing like the science, this neuroception, where they're constantly scanning for threats, and they feel that threat. Even when you're not saying or doing anything, it's in your body. It's in the tension in your body.
Yeah, and I'm saying, I remember, was one point in time as I began to, identify, exactly what I needed to have that point of decompression. I really would often say, okay, guys, because, you think, okay, when you get off work, there's the drive home, which these days can be extremely stressful, not necessarily relaxing or peaceful. But then you get home, and I would often say, okay, all right, guys, I know you're happy to see me. I know you're glad to see me. Give Dad 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just 30 minutes, and just let me just sit and be to myself for a minute. All right. And then after that 30 minutes, you can come and tell me whatever it is you want to tell me. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I'm making that commitment to say, hey, I'm going to re-engage and I'm going to connect. I'm just not in the headspace. Like I've been answering questions all day long. I've been putting out fires all day long, and I'm in that mode. And on my way home, I'm literally still thinking about all of the stuff that I kind of left undone that I really still got to come back and do, and all the things. So now I'm home. Let me get into, home mode. Because the thing is, we're a lot different from, like our spouses in that way. Our spouses are very they're able to multitask a lot. They're able to kind of switch back and forth from here to here to here to here to here. You're here and then they're there. So that the flip of the switch is a little bit easier for them. We, on the other hand, we're in one mode, for the most part, and then we have to take the time to get out of that mode, and then I now want to get into husband and father mode, but I just need a little time to turn that switch off. Maybe I'm gonna, during that time, that 30-minute period, I'm gonna go and take me a soak in the bath, or I'm gonna go and take relaxing shower, and put on some soft jazz music or something like that, while I do that, just to kind of give myself time to settle in and tell myself, like, I know I physically walked in the door, but I'm going to tell myself, you're home now. Okay.
That's it. And you're absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I say, as well, is that, there's lots of sort of those transition, science as well, that we need to tell our bodies that we're out of work mode. And I love that sort of 30 minutes. Maybe not all dads have 30 minutes. Sometimes the partner says, here you go, the kids are yours, when you walk in. Or the reality is maybe you're doing school pickup and then you have to manage the kids while still trying to do work. So I think, you've just got to, everyone has to find their ritual. Like, what's their transition? How do you become the anchor, right? For your kids, when they really need you when you come home. Maybe it is 30 minutes if you've got that. Maybe it's just splashing water in your face, changing your clothes. Maybe it's saying things, I'm home now, let me show up, you know, and just having that practice. Sometimes it's from one room to the other, all right? You need that transition so you can actually show up. You can actually lead from a place of calm. So I think that's so critical, you know, and often, you know, you're not going to get it right every single time because you're going to be depleted many days. But this is where we need to start with working out what energizes us. And I remember going to this, it's very related actually, this sort of leadership course many years ago. And it's really interesting how they focus on your body and your health as a key part of that leadership course, because this is your vehicle, right? You need to work out how to keep it energized and what makes it work and what stresses it and how do you come out of that. So taking care of our health, that's food, that's exercise, it's good sleep, right? These are key domains we just have to get right. They're like the foundations. Without that, you'll find that those things are having an impact on how you show up, right? So that's where I first started with the calm framework. In the book, you know, has this framework called calm, which is clear the body. You need to firstly de-stress the body. That is ensuring you clear that cortisol out every day. Physical movement does it, and, you know, really moving your body. So for me, it was running, and I write about my journey around running, but it could be going to the gym, it could be swimming, cycling, it could be just a walk at lunchtime. It's a way to clear some of that stress out. And then the anchor at the door, what you're saying around transition from the car to home, you've got to turn up anchored. So transition's key. The L in calm is leading with calm. So leading with a calm mindset can only happen if you're turned up in the right way. And the last one is probably the most important, the M in calm, model and repair. When we get it wrong, when we have to come back and repair. And many of us as parents feel, I don't need to apologize. I don't need to come back and repair that. They annoyed me. They got me really peed off, and I'm out of there, right? So I think that's probably the most important skill set. The last one is the model and repair, because you are teaching them how to do the same thing, right? You know how it is. I just think about the other day. You know, they're fighting and they're shouting, and then you're sort of saying, "Stop shouting," and you're shouting, and you're sort of doing exactly what you're telling them not to do. Exactly. So what are they learning? I think it comes back. It's the most important step. We have to model the behaviors we want, and there's lots of research showing that if we don't do that, then at some point in the years they're going to look for modeling from somebody else, whether it's their peers, whether it's some celebrity, or maybe they're already doing that. They're looking for role models to follow. Let that be yourself and your partner, if you can.
Why not? Why not? That is so phenomenal. So again, what is the release date for the book again? What is that release date?
So it's 1 month from now, 6th of July, but the Kindle is already available for pre-order. So it'll just land in your Kindle device on the 6th, but the paperback will be ready on the 6th of July. So all ready to go. And I'm just doing final checks. So I don't know if you guys that are on it, that's my author copy there. Green cover, fight or father. You can probably search it in Amazon now. So it'll be available on Amazon and other bookstores as well, but Amazon's probably the place to start. So really excited. I'm getting lots of great feedback on it. So hope you enjoy it. Hope your readers get something out of it.
Yes, I like it. So guys, you hear it. Okay, you can go to Amazon, search for the book Fight or Father. Okay, and then of course, I know that you're on social media, so Facebook and Instagram and all the things.
I am.
So we can.
I'm not the best. I'm not the best at social media. I'm still sort of very new to it all. But you can search me up on Instagram and Facebook as well. But yeah. The fightorfather.com. If you go and put in an email there, you can have the first 2 chapters and the introduction for free. So no obligation. But obviously, the book's out on the 6th of July if anyone's interested to learn more.
All right. I think you guys should do yourselves a favor. And guess what? Father's Day is coming up. So
Mm,
perhaps this may be a good gift for someone to be able to get that, maybe, it's in that space or needs that. So I'm going to ask you to do something for me before we depart.
sure.
So of course, as we talk about, all these different things, and we always want to, leave on a note where there's hope, in the situation, because we all have those moments and those times where we've got to go back and fix things and repair
Mm.
the what's been done. So, what advice would you give to dad who's like, at that point, like, I know something's got to be different. I know something's got to be done different, and I really
Mm.
have got to fix this, but they don't necessarily know where to start. What would you tell them?
Yeah, look, um, it's very difficult. Firstly, I think you you have to recognize. You probably feel it that something's not right. Your day in, day out, your days. Your there's probably more moments where you're having arguments or you're not feeling the best versus those moments of joy. And I think you'll know if you're there. So I think it requires a lot of deep work, and you have to do the deep work. And what I mean by that is really thinking about those situations, learning some tools and strategies and tactics that you can use to better your relationships, better your eating habits, better your exercise habits, better your sleep habits, right? These are the foundational things that I talk about in the book. And, there's a framework there, there's science you can follow. There's ways to make things a habit, right? So I also talk about how we often fail in these areas because we don't have KPIs for these areas. We do
Mm,
great in work with visions, values. Here's the culture. Here are the goals. Here are my quarterly targets. Here are my weekly tasks. Here are my monthly goals. And I'm not saying that you need to treat your family and your kids and your partner like a business, but take some principles from there, because I think men are rewarded and they chase things they can measure, right?
mm,
So we were taught that in history we are. It has deep roots that sort of, I'm going to be the provider, I'm going to succeed in my job or profession or career, and we do put so much into it, we don't have much left when we come home for the family. So what I'd encourage you, do that deep work, start journaling if you haven't already. Look for, there's things like the gratitude journal, just or your journal. I'm really interested in. I'll have to get a copy of that. But talking about things that you're grateful for in your life, and you know, looking at looking at ways how you can show up better through just really starting with those basics. So what I would do is start with yourself. Carve out time for yourself, because many men probably don't have the half an hour you talked about, the 1 hour themselves. You need that sacred time for yourself where
mhm,
you can get all those fundamentals right. Start learning some of the things you can do around those problems you might be having with your son or daughter or your partner and those relationships. And probably what you'll find is there's those emotions you're skipping underneath, right? Labeling them. And what I really highly encourage you to do is set some goals for your relationships. Set a vision. What's your vision of your relationship with your son, with your daughter, with your wife or partner? What's the ways you're going to measure that? Have you talked to them about that? Right? How are you tracking that quarterly, monthly, weekly? Right. So for me, as an example, I have something every quarter with Taj where I say, you get to choose the day, what we do. Right. Every quarter we do something. It might be going to a theme park. It might be going to the arcade. It might be going wherever, going out for lunch and ice cream. You get to choose. That's our sort of date. Right. On a weekly basis, it could be that I see him say 3 nice things to somebody else. I know I've done my job. He's been
mhm,
kind. He's shown compliments to some other people. That's a sort of weekly measure. It could be that I've spent X amount of time with my daughter, right? Just doing exactly what she might be wanting to play Barbies and cubby houses and cafes in her room. I've spent at least 30 minutes doing that this week, right, with her. So those measures, maybe it's, with your partner, it's a date. You've gone on at least one date and had a real conversation beyond the logistics of running the family and the kids. So have those measures, track those measures, because I'm sure many of your listeners would have read things like Atomic Habits, James Clear. We are all creatures of habit ultimately, and we need to build the right habits that that have the overarching goals, that have the overarching vision of where we want to go. So starts with deep work, but there are tools, tactics, and strategies that you can learn, and I talk about a lot of that in my book. So hope you enjoy.
I love it. I love it. So guys, do yourself a favor. Go on Amazon, look it up, Fight or Father. And if you want to go ahead and dig in, go ahead and get that Kindle version and look up Mitesh on the social media, and then go to the www.fightorfather.com. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yep. And go over there and see what's available. You can get the first 2 chapters free. All right. And you can begin your journey. I've had a lot of fun today, Mitesh. I've
really enjoyed this.
Yeah, you are the first guest that I've had the opportunity to talk to, that you're talking to me on a different day than I'm actually in.
Wow, there you go. So cool. I think I'm from the future, so you've got to listen to me.
That is so cool. That is so cool. But listen, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being my guest today and coming and joining on Facts and Fatherhood's podcast and sharing what you're sharing. I know there's so much more. So guys, we appreciate the work that you're doing. Continue with that, because a lot of us need to work on that, being calm and doing it. It's one of the things my children always said that they really appreciated about what I learned to do. It wasn't something that was easy. I really had to learn how to do it. But you know what? It is definitely doable, and you will appreciate what the rewards look like on the other side of that. All right. So thank you guys again for being a part. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Do the same thing for my friend Mitesh here. Like, share, subscribe. Go on to the socials and do all the things so we can help make ourselves better. Remember, one of the things we always say on the podcast too is, I am a good man doing the best I can, but working to make my best better, because there's always going to be room for improvement. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us again. We've had a whole lot of fun, and we definitely appreciate you for watching. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe, and keep on taking this journey with us here on Facts and Fatherhood. All right, y'all have a good day, and I will see you next time.